Hello. Let's get that up. Good. So today I was going to talk about SEO versus hashtags, but something that's come up is that people have been asking about how they, God, I look quite roddy, don't I? How they provide details for their community. So basically, how do they manage all the community, but how do they manage the day-to-day things? So a lot of people, this will be the first week back for kids going back. And then you kind of go, oh, I've got loads of space. I can sort of get loads of things done. And whilst that's great, you're sort of sitting there flummoxed, like, where do I start? And I've been doing this for years. I've been working from home for years. I'm just going to sort out the lighting. Goodness, I don't know why I look like I've been sunburnt. I haven't. It was an interesting summer. How was yours? Good. I'm pleased. Basically, how do you manage? There's so many different things to do. So getting back into the swing of work when you've been away for a sort of longer period of time. I don't know if, like anyone else, I've always found when you're kind of in intensity of work is working hard within that moment and then realizing you can feel when your energy and everything drops and you're out of flow at that point. So at that point, I go and do something to change my energy. And often depends who you are, because this is different for everyone. So introverts, extroverts, and ambiverts. An introvert might go off and kind of basically needs to put input within their own energy. So you might pop out, go for a quick, quiet walk. You might just want to sit and say meditate, and do like a 5-minute meditate, or just, simplicity of going and making a cup of tea and having that as a step away. You don't underestimate as well the walk, a 5-minute walk, literally walk out your house, walk to the end of the road, come back, done. It's just a new sense of scenery, changing the way your eyes go, reframing, changing your mind, and getting your sort of blood pumping with physicality into your mind and just helping you to think differently. The other thing is, if you're an introvert, you might want to get that, pause things and get the energy to reboost yourself from inside yourself. If you're an extrovert, you need other people. And that's why sometimes working from home, particularly if you are a small business or even just working independently and you've kind of already spoken with your team in your morning stand-up. A stand-up, for example, for other businesses is somewhere where you group together and it's literally like you're standing up in the room going, bang, bang, this is what I've done, this is what's been achieved, and this is what we're going to do next. And then people have their input and it goes around and everyone does their bit and then people move on. It's a very quick way of assessing a period and helping people move forwards with steps and challenges. It's an agile process as well. So the extrovert might need a stand-up. They might need a one-to-one. There's also platforms sometimes when you get stuck and you don't know who you're working with. There's also platforms, let me try and find this, where you can join other people online and work with them in quietness, in peace, really. And you sort of say at the beginning of your session, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I don't want to achieve. Let me find this for you. So I collect all the different apps and sort of different things we can do out there. This is helping you to be more productive. And means that you're not reacting to, you're not just reacting to messages and emails that are sent your way. So, for example, if you've got things coming out of Zendesk or things coming out of... what am I thinking of? Just your emails coming at you, your WhatsApps coming at you, your Zaps coming out at you. I can't remember what's the fast-paced one. Even stuff in Notion as well. So it's a way of managing your information, but doing it on your time. Sometimes we do, particularly extroverts, need to connect with people. I'm personally an ambivert. That is someone who sits between both. So I need both people, but actually sometimes I get the best work is when I sit and focus. And sometimes my ideas as well come out much better. I often find I have to go for a cup of tea or sit and have dinner by myself. I have that conversation with someone, can have a chat with someone about it, about the meal or whatever, something frivolous, and it unlocks and unravels a whole load of other information. So that's a way that I recharge myself. Sorry, I don't know why I look like I've been slapped across the face. It's quite bizarre. Right. Let me find this. I will find this for us. And so if you want to go in and work with people, and I used it for a bit, and you can sign up, and it's quite a good way of keeping you on target and focus on your goal. And you can go and work with a group of people from all over the world for an hour, 2 hours, even half a day. And each you have bite-sized incremental moments of how you work. I think they use the Pomodoro technique. Now, if you're not familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's something I love. It works really well for me. But you have to try out different it's a productivity tool. So you have to try out different productivity tools that you might like. For example, one is called Eat the Frog, and it's all about how you get the most trickiest thing and you start off with that first thing in the day. And then later on, you deal with the emails and the immediates and the things that then sort of catch up with you. The difficulty with that, obviously, is it depends, and it has to work around when you're working in a team, when you're going to have your group meeting, for example. So do you eat the frog before or after? If it's after, you're sort of plagued with loads of different questions that are being fired at you, and that's not going to help. So you're better off eating the frog, or at least planning the day before how you're going to eat the frog. Sorry, I know it's a ridiculous thing to say, but it's a way of saying you need to do this in big bite chunks, and you need to get past the ickiness of it first. Right, I'm going to find this. I will put a link of what it is in the comments with the video at the end. Let's find it. Actually. So I have loads of apps that show how to make the most out of your meetings. But this one is where you just turn up and you have it, just basically you meet and you greet. I'm going to find that and I'm going to pass that on, but I don't want to get bogged down by that right now. So when you're going off and restoring that energy, so how do you start your day? So a good rule of thumb is to create 3 key bullet points of 3 big items that you need to achieve that day and 3 little items that you need to achieve that day. Now, the way work and life is blended, there's an awful lot that's combined in there. So you might have personal. So I would put 3 personal items down there, such as put washing load on, pick it up at this time, make this meal later, blah, blah, or prepare it, or contact gas company, bill company, blah, 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 so forth. And so you deal with those and you create incremental periods where you're going to do that. So, for example, you might pause in your break. Now, don't do it in your break, do it after your break. It's like it ignites and restarts. It restarts your period into thinking again, but don't want to block your flow of thinking. So you might start with a big task that day, or at least flesh out of how it's going to look. You might also then, or you might want to start with the easier bits to get into. It depends on who you are as a person. But the biggest thing I've found that has been really, really helpful is do not judge yourself against others. Because I've worked with so many people and businesses where the biggest thing that's held them back is they haven't been honest with their time. They've just crammed it in and said, yeah, I'll get that done. And then they haven't done it. Or if they do it, they do it much later. And sometimes the much later is really good and really beneficial because that's who they are. But sometimes people don't work so well under pressure and need more time and build up. Now, if you are someone who uses AI apps to manage your calendar, there's a lot of very good ones out there. And I'm currently trying one out at the moment. Akiflow is the one, I couldn't remember it, which seems to integrate really well with lots of different apps that I'm using. If you're someone who does that, be realistic with your time. Everything always takes longer. So allow for contingency time that comes out of that. Create a list of tasks that you're going to work with. Now, if you're not utilizing the tools that are out there, then it kind of is slightly shooting yourself in the foot. At the moment, I'm looking at about 50 tabs. I'm not going to show you because it's quite daunting for some people, to say the least. But what I do love, so I used to use Chrome for working in, but because I work majority, there's a lot of crossover between digital and obviously all the Word, Microsoft-based documents, even Google Docs, everything is online now. So you're really pushing your laptops, mobiles, everything to full capacity. So if you're using something like Chrome, it tends to eat up the bandwidth. Bing doesn't. So I moved to Bing. These searches are very interesting. I still very much use Chrome and sometimes even Yandex to use for different searches to see what comes up and to check out obviously competitors and obviously client work as well. So just to show you, let's do this. Where is it? I really do. It's very interesting. I look like I've got a suntan. Don't know why. Okay, so what we've got here, this is Akiflow. Okay, let's also put in Flow, Microsoft. No. Oh, no. Let's do Flow, Microsoft. Let's just get up some tabs up here. I think you're still looking at this. Hang on, carry it through to the whole thing. There you go. You're getting a feedback of myself. So what I wanted to show you here is you've got both that and that. You can just drag that across. Oh dear, that's not what we want. Okay. Let's pull some of this in. Okay, I'm just going to pull up some tools. Anything I can pull in that isn't personal data and information. Oh, it's quite tricky. Because I am multitasking across several different levels with big tasks. And of course, the difference is because all those tasks impact each of those. So set your goals, the 3 goals. This is per day. So 3 major goals in the day and 3 little ones. Also include 3 personal little ones that are achievable. Now, you may not, and it is unlikely if you get through the 3 major big ones. If they are very big, set them as weekly tasks. And you know that sometimes, for example, if you're updating your CRM, for example, you might, let's pull in this local AI. You might be updating your 3 different tasks. But what happens with those is the fact that you might have a bigger one. So you know that if you're updating a CRM, it actually then impacts your automations. So then you have to kind of start going into another app and pulling that apart and connecting that through and so forth. And that task in itself, which seemed initially simple, ends up being a week long to possibly even stretch over to week 2. So what do you do to manage those? What do you do to manage those? I personally use monday.com, which I find incredibly useful. The flexibility and the color sequence has been fantastic. I can document and save, and also working with people so I work with lots of different people across timelines, and I love that I can pull in clients as guests, and we can have a whole board that we work with. We can I can pull in some of the freelancers that I use and just have them work in select boards whilst I'm overseeing all the other boards. I can automate between those boards. So when you have an update on something or an email goes out, so your emails can go out and it shows you read or not read, or, it keeps you ahead and on top of all of those things. And there's so much that you can do with it. And it crosses over between organizations, automation, project management. I love it. It's great for your pipeline as well. It's great for literally, you can do a very simple Kanban like Trello, and you can also document it in your calendar like Asana. But you can also, connect that through to your CRM. You can kind of make it as simple as you want, or make it as complex as you want as well. It all starts with, what do you want to do with it? And I'm talking to you about this, and I really should bring up an example of how this works. So I was jumping, but here we go. So putting this into, so there we go, artificial intelligence. I'm just dragging these into there, and then I can click on that and close it. So I have loads of these. I can right click and change the color. I can change test tab, change it into that, and then bring up new tabs that are separate from there. You see? I can also, you can turn them into workspaces. And if you want to, so if we go down, add group to new collection, or move tab group to new workspace. That workspace, I can then move into, I can work with, say, a specific developer, and I can give them access to this workspace, and we can work within that as well. I can then link all of these aspects and then connect them through to monday.com, and you have your automated service section as well. So let me, without going into monday.com, okay, because I've got to pull this up secretly, but it's a fantastic tool. I would highly recommend it. The other aspect as well is when we create, so your to-do list, for example, as well. I know this sounds crazy and people were flabbergasted, is I still do stuff in pen and paper. I'm a very visual person. My notes are not neat, but they're not for you, they're for me. I visualize and I can see where and how my notes work. That works really well as well with the digital tablet that people use, and they use it as paper and then they can store and bank it. But because I go through and build my ideas through writing about them, also through discussion, which some people do as well, you've got all of those options. So the premise is keep it simple, and right at the beginning of your starting back into after a long period of being off, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks off on holiday, 6 weeks being with the kids and kind of juggling and doing the bare necessities of what you need to do, and now you have all that time. Be realistic with yourself of how you now, this planning stage is so much more important and powerful, what will be powerful for how you're going to move forward up until through the autumn period and up into Christmas as well. And for a lot of businesses, particularly e-commerce, this is a really, really busy time where you'll be going, right, we need to do our advertising, we need to do our, promotion, social media, all of that, sort of all of the kind of client facing or customer facing media. You need to get all of that ready right now. But within that needs management and time, because you also need to respond to that. So the biggest takeaway here should be realistic with your time, what you have available. Don't be afraid to write things down, pen and paper. I even carry a notepad with me. Like I've started to carry a little notepad just to write those ideas down. Another thing I also do is I also have on my mobile, which has been incredibly useful, is I have Google Keep. And then I write my notes down there. And if you can see on my screen here, I have my notes in Google Keep here. So I can click there and it opens them up. And I'm going to close that down because there's personal stuff in there. But I have a personal one, I have a work one, and I can jump between the two of them easily. Even though I'm sitting here in Bing, I can do loads. So I've got also OneDrive there. I've got my Teams if I want to connect to the meetings, OneNote, and all the stuff. I can add more and more widgets on this right-hand side as well. So I can drag and drop emails, for example, directly into emails, PDFs, all of that sort of stuff, and bank them. I'm thinking what else? So it's basically about knowing how to use the tools. So when you're out and about, something like Google Keep, we also sync we have a family diary, and we sync it through Google and Outlook, and we just basically make sure that the correct email address goes out and everyone knows what they're doing on their route, however they take it. I write notes down and carry these notes because I find that easier, because when I open the laptop or the mobile phone, there's too many distractions. So for me, pen and paper. But I always spend at least 1 to 2 days getting ready, planning what I'm going to be doing and what is the most relevant right now. What's going to be taking me to that crux right now. It's not about rushing in and kind of sales and aiming for that, because that doesn't stand up. That might get you initially up there. And then when you're all busy, you're actually losing all that traction down there. And life happens. People get ill, kids get ill, things change, life changes. You might have to move house. If you've got the planning in place at the beginning, even this comes down to your strategy and setting up those core foundations, that will keep you in good stead for all of those changing markets as well. Anyway, right. I hope that's been helpful to start. I'm going to shut this down. That's there you go, a bit easier. So this is something I talked about in the other sessions, but this has been, I'm actually looking at my notes of what I've got to get done in the next couple of weeks, and what's the most pressing. So you can plan per week. I would break it down to start off with what you want to achieve that month, but be realistic with your time. If you're working on this part-time, you're doing a full-time job and then you've got part-time hours, that is feasible, also quite tricky sometimes, because if you need to get something done where you need to call an organization during office hours and you're working in the evenings or weekends, that's going to throw you. So that's why having something like Google Keep or a little notebook to just keep you on top, a little diary to say, right, note to self, do that. Don't expect yourself to carry all of this information. Also, damn it, factor in breaks. It's really important that you factor in that time to rebalance, because you yourself are a tool. And if you're not supporting that, then everything is going to fall down as well. You will find your business or idea or whatever passion project you're doing will find, as long as you have the foundations there, be it the timing, the resources that you need, be it just the support network around you to pick people up or take there, or just think, knowing that things will go on whilst you can focus on that, will help you a lot more. And those are your foundations. So stop overlooking the factors. Everyone's always talking about chasing this goal and you can do this, you can do that, faster and faster. We don't need faster. We need focused and concentrated. Okay, hope that's helped. See you again next week. Thanks.